Now, welcome to another Visions review. This time we'll be taking a look at the ninth and final episode, and I'm going to try to pronounce this, Akakiri?
Akakiri.
Okay, anyway, I will open it up by saying that I liked this episode. I think this was another one that suffered from being just a tad too short, but there's a lot I really liked about it. This was a very much an Anakin, Palpatine, Padme type dynamic going on here.
It was pretty much exactly that. It felt very much like that. And also, the plotline reminded me, at least a little bit, of Padme when she was going to reclaim her throne.
Yeah, like I said, it had you could feel the Star Wars inspiration here. I mean,
Definitely.
Almost too much, not too much, so, but very strong inspiration because it felt like they took that story and just kind of they reworked it a little bit and gave it back to you. Here you go. Here's the story of Anakin and Palpatine, and I mean, not exactly, but very similar.
Yeah. It was a condensed version of I mean, they even had him slaying younglings, so to speak.
Sort of, yes.
When he slayed the one he loved.
Yeah, but I mean, that's exactly how it reminded me so much of that. It's like, a lot of talk about destiny and what is meant to happen, and it's the same thing with Anakin, where he's seeing Padme's death, and I'm gonna do anything I can to stop that. But in reality, him trying to stop it is what causes it, and it's the same thing here. And they both end up falling to the dark side. The only difference is this one has a slightly happier ending since the Padme Misa character survives.
But she also still doesn't get to take over her kingdom.
Well, I did say slightly happier ending. Someone survives. She doesn't die.
She might not like that ending, though.
Well, she might like it. I don't know. I'd like the ending where I survive instead of die.
You would.
Well, I do like my life. I love my life.
I have seen other animes done in this style with kind of those elongated faces and the different way they portrayed people and even animals. It's not my favorite style, but I can appreciate the artistic nature of it.
Well, sure, I can appreciate the artistic nature. It wasn't my favorite style either, and the soundtrack wasn't my favorite either. Very, especially that ending. It almost felt upbeat. It's like, hey, you're going off to be a Sith now. Yay!
No, I can definitely agree that the music did not feel Star Wars.
No.
Not at all.
It's funny because, like I said, this might have been the most, like, we're really trying to go for a Star Wars story, kind of episode, and then everything else about it was, like, the visuals. I mean, he's wearing, like, this weird hat. Not a weird hat, but weird in terms of Star Wars for a Jedi hat.
No, that's
the sound is different. The outfits are all different. The characters, the two, I'll call them the sidekick characters, were just kind of like over the top and strange, and not in a Jar Jar way, but in just a different type of annoying way.
Oh, but those are characters you see in.
Well, anime, sure, I'm not saying they're not anime, but I mean they were really kind of just, somewhat grating, I'll say.
The little squat one reminded me a little bit of the uncle from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Which uncle? Not Uncle Iroh.
Yeah, Uncle Iroh. Sometimes he would kind of get a little tipsy and was out singing on the deck. And
okay.
Having the crew had music night on Zuko's ship. So I'm the playful aspects of that character kind of reminded me a little bit of Uncle Iroh from Avatar.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's as cool as Iroh.
No.
But, I mean, the two sidekick characters, they were good. They had enough characterization to make them, plausible, good characters. Though I was wondering if they were going to betray them.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I mean, they were all for the credits and everything. I felt that was coming and never did.
And at the beginning, I thought it was hilarious that they dubbed them as non-fighters. And yet, there were a lot of arrows flying through the sky at the same time that saved him from our not Tusken Raiders. Clearly, she's better than she looks. She launched all those arrows, never hit him. But then when it came to the fight in the town, she shot one person and that was it.
I did find it interesting how quickly or easily they were able to bring Misa back to life. I mean, Anakin and Palpatine would be jealous of their mastery of bringing, the dead back to life.
He's just not as good of a Sith as her, I guess.
I'm going to say that's probably not the case.
No, that's probably not the case. But it was interesting because I knew something was wrong the way those guards were shuffling towards him. They weren't, walking like real soldiers going to do their duty. They were kind of shuffling, and the way she kept holding her hand, I'm like, something's wrong. And as soon as he struck the last one down, I'm like, oh, that was her, wasn't it?
Yeah, he fulfilled his destiny.
was sad.
By trying to avoid it, you fulfill it.
But it's funny because the whole time he was trying to fight fate, and then he went with it. I mean, when the one guy in the mountains got lost or whatever happened to him, the other guy's, no, it was his fate to die. It was his fate. You can't fight fate. And he's like, you can fight fate. And he goes back and he gets him.
Well, I think he's trying to fight fate until he realizes that he fell right into its trap.
But at the same time, that's kind of... I mean, it's kind of a sad lesson, saying he can fight against his fate as much as he wants, but it didn't change anything.
Well, he's warned by his master, that... I mean, it's a theme in Star Wars where, you can see glimpses of the future. You're gifted these visions from the Force, but it's all about interpreting them. And sometimes, trying to fight against them is what brings them about. It's that kind of like catch-22. Like, yeah, you can see your fate, you can see your destiny, which means technically you should be able to avoid it. And yet sometimes trying to avoid it is what brings it about. That's the irony of the tragedy of the prequels or of Anakin's story. Him trying to save Padme is what kills Padme.
So what did you think of those not Tuscans?
They were what they were. A lot of things in this, like I said, a lot of things in this episode were just very different and stylistic and not necessarily Star Wars-like, but they fit the motif of the episode. Right,
and it was a quiet episode for the most part,
It was kind of, I think it might have been the most, I don't want to say confusing, it's not like I was lost, but it was the most, where you really had to pay attention to what was going on, because there, you had a lot of flashbacks mixed in, which really weren't specifically shown to be flashbacks, if that makes sense. You had him flashing to his master, you had him flashing to his past with her. So there was a lot, it felt like a lot of moving parts, and all of a sudden you're here, and then you're there, and it's, again, I don't want to say confusing, but it was definitely, if you weren't paying attention, you were probably like, what, how are we here, what's going on now?
Now the question, where does this fit into canon?
Well, he had a B-Wing, so that actually closes our window down quite a bit until after, if we're going by the Disney canon, we see the B-Wing for the first time in Rebels with Hera, so it would have to be close to that time period. If not after, we have no mention of the Empire, we have no mention of the rebellion or the Republic, so yeah, this could be years down the road, this could be...
So we could easily set this in the future.
Yeah, we could set this 100 years in the future, it's a B-Wing. We know when it has to take place after. We don't know how far after. If we want to shove it into the canon, which, I guess we could. I guess.
I've shoved every one of these into canon.
Yeah, I know. Again, with the Sith, and, all the Sith died in The Rise of Skywalker. I am all the Sith.
Yeah, and all of them. I'm sure we're never going to see another Sith pop up ever again.
Well, no, but you know what I'm saying.
Until the next trilogy.
Oh, yeah. It's only a matter of time before 10 through 12 get made.
It is.
They'll wait a few years yet, though.
Well, they haven't even talked to you about making it yet.
Yeah, well, if they did, I would certainly consider that. Not that I think that's going to happen.
It's a lot of cleanup, though.
Yeah. I don't know that,
It begins with Luke waking up from a horrible dream.
Well, that's all you have to do. Luke wakes up and it's like, whoa, I had the craziest dream.
I had a horrible vision of the future.
And then him and Ben go for a walk and they discuss it, and then we're happy because they actually goes on to train the Jedi and restore the Order.
And they train Rey, and...
Rey doesn't need training.
Reylo can be a thing.
We were just discussing it last night. The more training Rey gets in the trilogy, the less effective she tends to be. Isn't it strange? She beats Kylo in the first movie with no training, but then she starts getting, she has her encounter with Luke. I don't know that there's any real training in there. And she gets maybe a year's worth of training from Leia, and suddenly now she can't beat Kylo anymore. So maybe that's her weakness.
Maybe Kylo improved.
Training is Rey's weakness.
Remember, Snoke even said, I think it's time to complete your training.
Oh, yeah.
So what's to say he didn't get some training and improve?
But that was like 2 days later. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Snoke
he
says,
got a lot of training in 2 days.
Must have been. I don't know why Snoke was holding out before then. But we know, we actually see him encounter Snoke.
I think a lot of Sith hold out on their apprentices.
We know he doesn't get that training. I didn't even realize how stupid that line is, because the next time he sees Snoke basically belittles him for wanting to be Vader and wearing his helmet and losing to a girl. And so he never gets that training. That was
training. It was trying to make him more angry.
Well, it didn't work, did it?
He didn't need the mask, and he could shed his duality.
Trying to make sense of all this is difficult.
But see, in your version, waking up from the dream, we would get Reylo.
Not necessarily.
Well, he wouldn't be Kylo, but we might get it. Well, there'd still be duality.
It'd be Ray-Ben.
Raven.
Kind of like sunglasses. But anyway, I think we're talking about the wrong thing right now. So I don't have much else to say about this episode. It was pretty good. I really like I like what they were going for. I like the themes. It's very Star Wars-esque. I mean, almost to the point where it's plagiarism. But I liked it. I think, again, maybe slightly kind of confusing or jumbled. That could have used another 10 to 15 minutes to kind of flesh some of these things out a little bit more. But that's, that is what it is because you're trying to go for a short. So I get that. But I liked it.
I liked it. I wouldn't put it towards the top of the list. Honestly, the music choices of it kind of lowered it a little bit to me and took me out of it at the end.
No, it's not towards my top, but it's, it's definitely above, the bottom tier, which we're going to discuss that because we're going to rank them all, aren't we? That's next step.
Yeah, we got
kind of a recap and ranking.
We're going to make a tier list.
All right, that's going to be a tier list or an actual ranking. Those are different. Are we going to go A, B, C, D, or are we going to just go 1 through 9 or 9 through 1?
I don't know. A tier list might be a better way to go.
Well, it might.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll do them both.
Ooh. Well, maybe we'll let you guys decide in the comments below. If you've made it this far, because we've been rambling for a while now, tell us you want a tier list or just want us to rank them or both. Anyway, I think that's all we got for you this time.
I think so.
So tell us what you thought of this episode. Tell us what you want to do. You want a tier list? You want a ranking? And until next time, thanks for watching.